big news this week, though, as we approach an international break, the U.S. women's national team called up 24 players to the senior national team. We already did an episode on that. Go check it out. But we've also gotten a 24-player U23 roster, 11 of which those players were at the Futures Camp in January. But this is pretty unique and pretty cool that Emma Hayes is doing this. She's putting such an emphasis on this younger generation and having them bridge the gap between U23s and the senior national team. So 24 players have been called up for this April window. Let's run through them. Goalkeepers, 3 of them called into this camp: Izzy Lee, Nona Reason, and Stephanie Sparkowski. 8 defenders: Zara Chavoski, Ava Gattino, Savvy King, Emily Mason, Lily Reel, Evelyn Shores, Giselle Thompson, and Amelia Van Zanten. 6 midfielders: Meg Bodie, Abby Brighton, Taylor Huff, Riley Jackson, Una McCormack, Sally Menti. And then 7 forwards: Maddie Darlene, Saya Hanks, Jamise Joseph, Quincy Mahone, McKenna Morris, Sarah Shapansky, and Rylan Turner. So 18 professional players. 1 is currently unattached, and just 5 college players. But this is the first U23 women's national team training camp of 2025. It will be led by Lisa Cole, who leads the women's national team player pathway scout under Emma Hayes, even though Hayes is going to be very involved in both the senior national team and the U23. But Darian, this opens the doors for so many opportunities for players.
I absolutely love it. I mean, thinking about when we were growing up, you didn't get national team looks unless you were at a top 10 school, really, if your parents could afford to have you on a club team that you knew that U.S. Soccer Scouts were going to be there. I think, to me, this is so important, looking at the growth of U.S. soccer and leaning into actual markets where players are performing that maybe we don't normally see. I mean, there's players from Juventus, there's players from small towns, there's players that aren't even playing with teams currently that are getting a look under Emma Hayes and the national team staff. I think this is going to help us grow so much, and I love seeing even players that maybe don't get consistently starting minutes in the NWSL, but they have a ton of potential. Now you get to go show your stuff in front of the staff. You get to learn from the staff. You get to see exactly what they're looking for in the future for U.S. soccer, because it's not necessarily for the current cycle right now. This is thinking years and years ahead, the next Olympics, next World Cup. So I'm really excited. This makes me wish I was 14, 15, looking to play in the U.S. national team system again, because I think now it's so much more tangible to get looks and also develop your game and those around you so much more.
How are some of these players even getting looks if you're unattached, or how do you get an opportunity like this?
Hell, I mean, U.S. soccer scouting must be on 10, because I'm not even sure. We need to get somebody on the show to talk about that, because I am not a scout or an expert in this field at all. But I imagine you're showing up well in your club teams. You have connections to where you're playing at tournaments where it's visible, and where I think U.S. soccer's reach is so much bigger than what it used to be. You know, especially because there's so much opportunity on this team now. U.S. soccer is forced to have to open their pool, to have eyes everywhere, even in the smaller towns, smaller cities where maybe they're not participating in the massive tournaments that are on the coasts. So I think it opens the pool. I want to know the trick. Emma Hayes, whoever the scouts are for U.S. soccer, come on the show, give us some detail, because
let us know.
I'm really excited for it.
It must help if you play on that point.
Yeah,
go ahead, McCall.
Lisa, I was just thinking, like, when Dee was talking, that they've created a pipeline up into the full team, and it's development. And like you said, it's not necessarily for them right now, but it's for the future. And that's what the NWSL is missing. There needs to be a feeder into these full teams. There needs to be academies. There needs to be a developmental league. There needs to be something, just like U.S. soccer has a pipeline directly up to the full team. The NWSL eventually needs to get one of those too.
Why don't we have one already?
Money, stability. I mean, NWSL still has a lot to grow before, I think, sister clubs. I mean, what Seattle has a sister club that, yes, you can go train with the full team if you're up to the level and
does Portland have
the quality. I don't know. I'm not really sure what other clubs. I just know that Seattle does. But I think we're just not there yet developmentally wise with the NWSL. I think the team has to be very, very stable in a market that has a sister club attached to it in order to do that and make sure that that level's high enough where they're producing players. I totally agree with McCall. It needs to get there, but I don't know how close we are to actually it being tangible.
When we think
I'm
about
not
this,
fully mad at it yet, but we need our feet on the ground before we try to jump, like 2 feet on the ground. I think we're just trying to work to get the infrastructure and the stability with the teams that we have, and then we can worry about some extra change like that later.
I mean, do we even have 2 feet on the ground right now? Because of the 16 NWSL players, there are some NWSL teams that don't even have any call-ups for this U23 camp or even for the senior national team camp at the same time, McCall. Houston and Louisville don't have any youth players on this roster. Houston does have some senior national team players, though. Is that the first catalyst, making sure there is international talent across every single NWSL team?
Well, the 2 things that stuck out for me was, yes, there's 16 players out of the 24 from the NWSL, which is great. Racing doesn't have either at 23s or senior team. So you look at a club like that and you're thinking to yourself, what's the issue there? Do they have a developmental problem? Are they not performing at their highest tick? And with their last couple of results starting this league so far, doesn't look great. So maybe they'll look to make some changes, make some trades, bring something in. But they are the only standing team without anyone represented. And also no goalkeepers from the league at the U23s. So that to me says these players are getting experience because as a goalkeeper, you have to get games. Like you can't just sit behind as a number 2 in training all the time. The way you're going to grow the fastest and the best is to get games. And so a lot of these young players go overseas so they can play and get games, but there's just too many amazing goalkeepers in the league here in America. So they have to leave to go get games.
That's almost a whole other conversation. We're talking about like development academies. I mean, the goalkeeper position is so undereducated and under invested in American soccer right now, right? There's a shortage of goalkeepers in the women's game, in the men's game. It's just a position that is often overlooked. And it's also one that isn't rotated, right? In a game or in settings, competitive settings. So if you're a second string that maybe is a first string starting goalkeeper at another club, but you're not getting any time, that sets you back in your career and your experience and everything that you're doing. I will say that with Hayes being at the helm of U.S. women's national team and U.S. soccer really helping create a pipeline and a pathway for younger players to make it to the senior national team, one of the positives of seeing this 24-player U23 roster is that if players are called up to a senior national team, but they're not quite ready to compete at that level, it doesn't mean you're out. There are 3 players that have been called up to senior national team camps that are now on this U23 camp. Defenders, Ava Gattino and Savvy King and Giselle Thompson. They all have time with the senior national team, but they're not quite there yet and quite ready. Perhaps it gives them an opportunity, McCall, to lead this U23 group. It just keeps the door open for them to continuously stay involved in the youth programs of U.S. soccer, which I don't think was there before.
No doubt about it, because U.S. soccer also has a very specific lingo and style of play that they want those players in their system to know. So the earlier that they can get them into the system, teach them their ways, the way they go about things, it's better for them in the long run. Like look at Avery Patterson, right? So she just got a call up for the full team and you'll see her. She had time at U23s. She had time at U20s. So that's exactly the recipe that they are looking for, is to get their hands on these players early. And then when they're at the senior team, they're full guns a-blazing, all ready to rumble.
What's the biggest difference, Darian, would you say, between a player that is U23 ready and then senior national team ready?
Piggybacking on what McCall said, I think the youth programming, and I think the U23 is just below getting that call up, not just in age, but actual one more thing that you can bring. What's the special quality that nobody else has that you've mastered? And also have the confidence and the heart to come show it in a high pressure environment where, hey, players are going to be more athletic, bigger, faster, stronger, but you have this one thing that we can't take away from you. So this youth pipeline that we're talking about. It's here's the principles, here's the mindset, here's the fitness level you need to be at, here's how you need to take care of yourself, here's your recovery plan. There's so much that goes into it that honestly teaches you how to be an adult soccer player, a real pro, that I think once you get to that next level, I mean, McCall can speak to this more than I can because I haven't been called up to a senior national team, but I was in the youth pipeline since 13, that you get to that next level and it's okay. Now you have all of this. We don't have to cater to you in this because you're just going to do it. You're a true pro. What are those qualities that we can't teach that you just have that got you to this point? And that's when you can go and ball out when it's all put together. I think we've seen that from some young players like a Lily Johannes, Ali Sentinor. Like, come and show us what you got. What makes you special?
Having all that confidence in these young players, it's so fun to watch them. And now that Hayes is really making a concerted effort to bring in young players and have them training in the same environment as a senior national team, not doing the same drills in them, like you're not standing next to them in line, but watching them. That also has to give you a little boost if you're a U23 player. Watching the other midfielders of Lily Johannes or Lindsay Horan competing right over there.
I can attest, playing with McCall specifically, when I first became pro, watching McCall's habits as a player and how she would train. I mean, we were also on a team where passing patterns were make or break your entire day at a training session. McCall's, like, it's all in the little things of what separates you. You're checking off of a cone, checking off of the defender, checking your shoulder, knowing how to turn, the right texture on the pass. Are you playing the specific foot? How hard is it? Those little things are what truly separate you. How consistently can you do the small details? And I have to say, McCall is one of those players that bread and butter taught me a lot when I transitioned to playing pro.
Thanks, Dee. Well, I'm going to pump you back because there is a thing where young players don't have the ability to absorb as quickly as you do. Like, you came in with a beginner's mind, you were open, you wanted to learn from others. You know, sometimes, especially children coming up these days, you know, they think they don't need to change very much and they got it all going on already. So the more you can have an open learning mind, that's how they're really going to grow and take advantage of this opportunity that they have.
This has to open up the mind and like create that sponge like want from some of these young players. McCall, just because we're talking about the transition, what is the one thing going from youth US teams to the senior national team that is the biggest difference?
Well, what's interesting in my case is I'm actually the oldest player in US soccer history to be called into the senior team. I believe I was like 31 years old.
Let's go.
So that was very rare and unique. And the last time I had played with US soccer was like U17s for like a couple camps, maybe a year. But then a large gap came and they weren't necessarily teaching us all those tactics and the system and style of play at U17s. They were kind of just trying to scout, you know, who has talent for the future. So when I got into full team camp, my head was spinning. Like, it was like everything I had done for the last 10 years needed to be broken and remade. So it was a really hard adjustment for me. And that's why it goes to show how valuable it is that they are calling these players into U23s, into U20s, and keeping them in the pipeline. So then it's just a smooth transition for them to the big global stage.
I will say, McCall, you balled out. You deserved a call up for much earlier than you got it, but I'm so happy you got it because it's so deserved. But I feel like that specific time, Lisa, we've talked about this on the show a lot, almost that stifled the US, and we saw that at the World Cup, that they kept players in so long that kind of stifled the development of bringing in players like you earlier on in your career because they had their team. You knew exactly who was going to get called in. You could predict the lineup. And now, hell, we're guessing. We all have different lineups every single camp of who the hell's going to start, who's going to get minutes. We don't know. What's the roster going to look like? Holy shit. Where is everybody? And that's exciting.
Or even who's going to get called into camp. Avery Patterson?
Yes,
Could any of us have predicted that? No.
But now there's so much opportunity and so much growth. And that's also going to push those players that we think are on lock to even improve their game, which before, yes, of course, they're pros, the legends in the game. They're going to keep improving. But now it's just leaking into more of a youth development and everybody's coming in at such a higher level.
It forces
you guys, sometimes
everyone
though,
to love it.
It's just the era. Sometimes there's like a midfielders
Yeah.
era where like all of a sudden they produce like 15 like superstars, and then there's like a gap in the front line. So then people get looks that maybe aren't up to that, so sometimes it's just, okay, how many good players in my position are in that same kind of block for US soccer? And that's why, again, like seeing these players get called in right now, there's so many good players in every position now because we've had more time in this league developing players and having them with a stage to improve on. So whoever's getting called in nowadays earns it so much. Maybe not so much me, maybe there was a gap, but them for sure.
Every player that's getting a look right now, you have to imagine has a little bit of a sigh of relief. Like, wow, I've worked so hard for this and now it's my chance to level up. You get 1 second to breathe and then it's like, go work harder and do everything, open your brain up more than you ever have before. But it gives a lot of promise and hope to the future of this US national team program, that we won't have a drop off where right 2-3 years ago, we were like, hey, the kids are all right. We're not having that anymore because it's a seamless transition of having all these younger players mixed in with veterans that have 150 caps with players that are getting their first call up. And bridging that gap is something that Hayes has put such an emphasis on. And that's what we're seeing in the Futures Camp and now in this U23 camp as well. So we won't get to see them in action in friendlies, but we will get to see the senior national team.